What went wrong? That's the question many people have been asking about Zero Two ever since it ended about 9 years ago. Taking a guess there. We are thrown 3 years into the future after the events of the original Digimon adventure. And a lot has definitely changed. Everybody but TK and Kari are in high school now, and TK and Kari are about where Tai, Matt, and the others were in the original season. So definitely they've aged. The Digiworld's changed a lot too. It's been taken over by a crazed kid with blue hair. He calls himself the Digimon Emperor, and he controls Digimon with dark rings. And this makes it hard for the original group to do anything because his black Digivice basically makes it to where you can't Digivolve. So they're basically stuck at their lowest form rookies, and they can't do anything about it. So when Tai somehow got into the digital world, that doesn't really make any sense, due to the fact that the gate was supposed to be closed, and only the D3s, which are the new Digivices that the new guys got, they're the only ones that are allowed to open the gate to the digital world. Tai doesn't have that. So how did he get there? I don't know. Don't question Tai. that was my reasoning for it. So he finds an egg with the crest of courage on it. He thinks it's his. I wonder why. Decides to take it, and it releases 3 new Digivices. One to Davis, one to Yoli, and one to Cody. Now, these 3 are the new Digidestined, and they will be the main characters of this season, which wasn't a good idea by the writers at all. So, Davis ends up in a Ninja War with TK and Kari. He pulls the egg out after they run across Tai, and we're introduced to Vmon, who will become the new lead Digimon. Okay. So we're introduced to a new form of evolution known as Armored Digivolution, where the eggs that they pick up combine with the Digimon that they Digivolve with to create a new evolution that somehow bypasses the black Digivice's hold. I'm not exactly sure what armors are supposed to be. I think they're supposed to be like more of an equip upgrade more than an actual evolution. I'm not entirely sure. They never explain what an armored Digivolution was supposed to be, and we're not sure how strong they are. I've heard some people say that they're a bit stronger than champions, and I've heard some people say that they're a bit weaker than champions, but I think they're a tad bit stronger because they've proven to be able to handle some ultimates pretty easily. So I think that they might be in that little gray area in between champion and ultimate. That's just a guess, though. Don't take my word on that. But I don't know. That's just what it seemed to be, because they seem rather powerful, but they couldn't take Metal Greymon. Yeah, because that would have made that great plot line a bit too simple. So next day, Yoli and Cody go in, and they get the eggs of love and knowledge. We're introduced to Hawkmon and Armadillomon, which are Yoli and Cody's 2 partners. And, okay, so we get more armor evolutions. Then it's basically find the Dark Towers, knock them down, freeze as many Digimon as you can, and try to overthrow the Emperor. Okay, so we later find out that the Emperor is a kid in the real world that they've seen a lot about on the news and in media. His name is Ken Ichijochi. I think I said that right. And that backstory of his is really, really complicated. I'll get into that more when I talk about the characters and when I get to Ken. So he ends up having a corrupt Digivice, which allows him to do evil things with it. Control Digimon, enable the original Digivice to activate evolution, yada yada yada. So he gets beat up a lot over time, and then he tries to take Agumon, ties Agumon, and this is probably my favorite part of Zero Two, just because it was a nice little twist to have one of the original Digidestined Digimon get captured, and Skull Greymon makes a return. He's trying to get him to Ultimate. He realized that the original Dark Ring wasn't strong enough to hold Ultimates, so he created a spiral, which is basically like a 3-ring wind together thing. And he's able to get Dark Metal Greymon. And that was a nice little subplot. It was by far the most enjoyable part of Zero Two. So then this continues on a while. The Digimon Emperor saga lasts about half the season. It was a bit drawn out, although I did deem it the best part of Zero Two. Even though, like I said, even though it was drawn out, I mean, the season's only, what, 50 episodes, and it took up about 21, 22 episodes, a little under half. And even great plot lines get boring after a while if it stretches out way too long. And that's another complaint we're going to have about Frontier later on. Because it suffered that a little too badly. So then after Ken is taken down, sorry if I'm messing with my nose too much, it's itchy for some reason. I don't know. Let's just go with it. So after they take out Ken, he goes into a psychotic depression where he kind of gains amnesia a little bit as he tries to rebuild himself, and he eventually becomes a part of the group after gaining his sanity back. And then we get into what makes Zero Two the train wreck that it is. We're introduced to about, what, 6, 7 different plot lines that are kind of all intertwined with one another. And then there was one in the Emperor saga that was kind of brushed upon too, the Dark Ocean. I'll get into that when I start talking about my little mini rant at the end. So basically, in the second half of the season, we're introduced to Arukenimon Mummymon saga, the Black War Greymon stuff, the Destiny Stone saga, which is really stupid, the Daemon Core, and the Oikawa story. And that was the only one that really had an ending, because well, each of those stories did have an ending. They didn't really seem like endings. They just kind of like, they got bored with them and decided to, like, okay, this is how we're going to just kick it away. And that was a recurring theme with this season. It brought too much to the table than it could handle, and it brought a lot of good ideas to the table, like, especially the one with this guy. This was a good idea. It's just they didn't do anything with him. They kind of made him a whiny drone and just went around blowing things up. He went around blowing up the Destiny Stones, and there was a reasoning behind it in the story, but it never really made any sense, because it's like, if you destroy all of them, then the gate between the two worlds is destroyed. Well, as we'll find out later on, that that's not even an issue, and they end up doing it anyway. Like I said, this season just it made a lot of stupid mistakes with the story. So like I said, the Destiny Stone thing was rather stupid. Then, like I said, the Black War Greymon thing was stupid, because eventually when he ran across a Zulongmon, one of the 4 sovereigns, he explains, oh, your life is, I don't know what your meaning is. Well, okay. All that build up to see if we could finally figure out what his reason for being there was, and oh, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Well, thank you. That was like, what, a 17-part story that led nowhere. Fantastic. Then we had the Daemon Corp thing, which showed up rather late in the season, and it didn't really do much. It was just, it was more there because Oikawa was taking Ken hostage. He took Ken hostage, he took a bunch of kids hostage. I think it was more of just a thing to give the rest of the Digidestined to do, because I think Cody, TK, Davis, and Yoli chased down Oikawa, and I think the rest of the Digidestined fought them. And, I mean, Daemon wanted Ken for the same reason Oikawa did, but, I mean, it was a nice little twist to try to have the Digidestined try to fight two enemies, but the fact that they gave so much more priority to the Oikawa side of the story, it just... Once again, another good idea, like this guy, another good idea that they kind of tossed aside, like, who cares? And the same goes with the Dark Ocean thing, where Kari gets kidnapped in there, and I forgot what the Digimon who was running the place was, but you know who I'm talking about. He wanted her as the queen because of her light or something. I can't remember the exact details of it, but it obviously tied into Ken's backstory, and I think the Daemon Core had something to do with it too. And it could have been a really, really good story. It may have beaten out some of the things that the original adventure did if they had done it correctly, but they didn't do anything with it after that episode. They just like brought it up every so often. It's like a plot gimmick to move certain stories along and end certain ones, like the Daemon story. How the heck did Ken open a gateway with his Digivice to that place anyway? Wouldn't that have caused like dramatic negative effects on the human world? I don't know. I don't know. That moment was really stupid too. Because I don't want to go over that. That's a whole nother rant video in its own. And there's another retrospective guy that I was watching last night who tore that scene up enough as it is, so I don't want to kick it while it's down anymore. I could say that same thing. I could say that about this whole season, but I mean, I have to. I can't kiss up to this level this season because there's nothing really to kiss up to. Well, except for the first half. I like the first half. So we're left with the Oikawa saga, and it was one of those things that was confusingly stupid. I'm not even going to try to explain it because to a certain extent I don't even know what happened. It was something about, going back to Ken's backstory again, it was something about Millenniumon. When he got destroyed, his data got jammed inside Ken, and that's how he became evil. And Oikawa, or as we later find out who the real villain is, Myotismon, reincarnated, well, I guess you can say reincarnated, was trying to use those. Well, Oikawa had his reasons, but Myotismon had his own reasons. He wanted to use the spores to try to open a gate to the Digiworld so he can get there. And he used Ken as a vessel to bloom the spores. And then he gave it to all the kids that he had kidnapped so he could have multiple flowers to open a gateway. I don't know. At least the D-Reaper saga made sense. As much as I don't find the D-Reaper to be Digimon-ish, and I find it a bit too science fiction-y to be in Digimon, at least that story made perfect sense. This, on the other hand, I don't, okay. I'm sighing too much. Okay, so Myotismon ends up being the real villain. He's trying to do what he did in Adventure, except stupidly, by just covering the world in darkness. Blah, 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 blah. And then every Digidestined on Earth, which ends up being every kid, and that's another thing we're going to rant about, because it kind of ruined what set Adventure as what it was, came down, used the light, Then the kids got over their depressiveness, or depression, I'm making up words, and he blew up, and Digimon blew him up more, and then that was it. And then we got the worst ending in the entire series. I mean, come on. That's something that, like, Adventure, Frontier, and Tamers did so well, is that it ended, but it ended in a way that made us feel good. And it made us happy, it made us smile, it made us tear up some. Especially Frontier and Adventure. Those are my two favorite endings by a long shot. I mean, Saver's ending was funny. In Xros Wars' ending was a bit sudden, but I'll get into why I'm okay with Xros Wars' ending when I get to that season. But this ending was... it was just disappointing because it set everybody's futures in stone. It said that the gateway between the two worlds was open completely for Digimon and humans to intertwine between one another. And weren't they trying to prevent the gate from being completely open with that whole Destiny Zone thing? Weren't they saying, oh, it was going to cause mass chaos between both worlds? And here it's perfectly fine now. Okay. Zero Two, the perfect example of why a sequel is not always a good idea. You had Adventure, which last video I said is my favorite season. It did so much right. The characters, I loved every single character. I loved every single Digimon. Although I didn't talk about them much because I went over on the characters too much. I'll probably make a video continuing, like, making up some of the things I missed on Adventure, because there were a few things I missed. And then we get this, which, due to Adventures being so good, it had high expectations. Here were the expectations. Down here. Here's where it actually was. See, I'm not even on the screen anymore. Okay, and like I said, I've already ripped the story down, and there's a lot more things wrong with the story. Go look up a few retrospect people. I'll probably put a link to some of the videos down below so you can see what I'm talking about, because they go into more detail on it. I'm just kind of giving you a brush overview. Okay, so now onto the characters. And this will be a lot easier than it was for the last one, because I had 8 characters that I really liked talking about. I loved every single one of them. Then we get these 3 stooges. Davis, Yoli, Cody. Oh, and I forgot about Ken. Ken's probably the one I'm going to spend the most time on. Okay, Davis is bonehead. He's stupid, he's stubborn, he's a hothead, he doesn't think, and Vmon is almost exactly like him. They're almost perfect clones of one another, and it's the first episode kind of set the bar. When Ty gave his goggles to Davis, that was Ty's worst decision as a leader. And Davis is a mess. He doesn't develop at all. And he'll have these shining moments of glory throughout the season where he sounds like a reasonable, like, noble warrior of justice or something, when it's not in his character, and we have no signs leading up to him being this kind of character. It's just out of the blue, spontaneous burst of amazingness. Rather lame moments of amazingness at that. I'm not even going to go over him much anymore. That's basically all there is to Davis. Yoli is more of a train wreck. She is a multi-emotional teen girl that I think it's universally agreed throughout Digimon that she's probably the most irritatingly annoying character in the entire series. I never liked Yoli. Hawkmon was kind of cool though, because he's pretty noble, he's honest. Kind of the same reasons why I like Galmon from Savers. he's cool, especially in the Japanese version. He's kind of mighty, almost the exact opposite of Yoli, which I'm surprised they got along so well. Then again, I said the same thing about Joe and Gomamon. One's responsible, one's a clown. And then Cody's okay. I mean, he had a backstory to him with his dad dying and his dad being friends with Oikawa, and there's some connections there, but his personality bored me. And I really don't know what else to say about Cody. Armadillomon was okay, I guess. Now to Ken. Well, let me go to TK and Kari real quick. TK and Kari, well, they've matured. They're more responsible. They change a little bit, but they kind of go with the theme of everybody being stupid in this season. Even the original group, Ty, Matt, Sora, Mimi, Joe, Izzy, they all kind of seem to get idiotic after a while. And you touch my original team, you make them stupid. You've got problems with me. You got a major issue with me. You do not make Ty and the rest of the original group look boneheadish. That was another reason why this season didn't go well with me. Along with the fact that they kind of kicked Ty and the rest of them the side characters. I mean, I can understand maybe in the Digimon Emperor saga because they couldn't really do much, but still. Do not make Ty a side character. No. Bad 02. Bad. Bad. Now, if they had made Davis, Yoli, Ken, Cody like additions, then okay, yeah, it wouldn't be that bad. But they made them to a certain extent replacements, and no, that didn't work. That did not work at all. But now back to Ken. Well, he starts off as a Digimon Emperor. He's evil. I know I brought up Millennium Mom earlier. His backstory actually kind of relates to a game that we never got here in America called I forgot the name of it. It was on this handheld Bandai system called the Wonder Swan. It was only released in Japan, and it was a story about Ken and Rio, and I'll be bringing his name up again in Tamers, because it's the same character, although they're in separate worlds, and I'll explain that in my Tamers review. They end up having an adventure in the Digiworld. I think the original group gets kidnapped by Millenniumon, and Ken, Wormon, Rio, and Cyberdramon, I think that was the Digimon he had with him, end up killing him. And when he died, his DNA data stuff released into the dark spores that I was talking about with the Oikawa story, and some of them entered Ken, so that's where his evilness came from. After he gets beaten by the Digidestin, he goes insane because he lost what he was his life practically. He lost his partner Wormmon, and he just went nuts. And as a psychology major, this is the kind of stuff I look into because it was a bit of a realistic response to what happened to him. Like practically his whole world came crushing down on him, especially after the fact where he realized that the Digiworld was a real place. And it hit him hard, and he just crumbled. He went into a kind of a coma, depression type thing. He woke up, he kind of had amnesia a little bit. And then when he found Wormmon again in the Digiworld, he got his memory back, and he gradually began to put himself back together. It's definitely the best part of 02, watching him be evil, crumble, and then build himself back up to where he forgives himself and everything he did, and the Digidestin forgives him, the Digimon forgive him. That's the best part of 02, is watching Ken's story unfold. That alone is enough to watch 02, but it's not a good enough reason to think Zero Two is actually good. That's about it for the characters. See, that was a lot easier than it was my last one. 3 characters I don't really like talking about. Ken, who I can easily brush upon. Wormmon was kind of cool because he knew who Ken really was. He knew how he really was. So he was there trying to snap him out of it every so often. Ended up getting abused a lot in the first half of the season. Then he became like Ken's driving force to get better, and he really did help. And he became pretty funny as the season went along, especially in the second half. He was funny to listen to because he kind of reminded me of Tentomon and Terriermon. He was a bit of a smart aleck. It was nice. Wormmon's one of my favorite Digimon from Zero Two. Okay, so that's it for the characters in the story. Now I'm going to brush on a few of the things that the season actually did right, and a few of the things I think they could have tweaked. The Digimon Emperor saga was pretty nice. It introduced the first human villain, which for some reason all these nostalgia tards keep getting onto what Savers and Frontier for is like, oh my god, you got a human villain, I don't like this. Well, guess what? Zero Two did it first. Deal with it. I actually did it the first 2 times because Oikawa. Shut up. Ugh. Not as bad as the nostalgia tards in the Sonic fan base. And I'll be making a video about that. That'll be a fun one to make later. Because it's worse there. That was a nice thing. This season began the trend that each new season added a new evolution style. This introduced 2. It introduced armor and DNA. So, like I explained armors already. It was kind of cool. And there's a few things that I think they could have done about this. Vmon is not the only one who can use the Egg of Friendship and Courage. And there was and the Digi-Egg of Miracles, which was brought up in the Golden Hurricane movie, and in the very end of the Emperor saga. And then there was also a crest of an Egg of Kindness that was never shown in the anime. And Wormmon could also armor digivolve. I'll probably put a link to the evolution table down below so you can see what each guy looked like with each egg. I think my favorite one that they didn't show was Wormmon with Courage, where he looked like a big flaming bee thing. It was pretty cool looking. It looked like Wormmon with Flamedramon's armor on. It's probably my favorite looking armor. And believe it or not, armors show up throughout the other seasons as just like regular Digimon. Like the first episode of Tamers where they showed Renamon fighting Lynxmon, that flaming cat, that's Gatomon with the Egg of Courage. So they throw the armors, the mixed armors throughout each season as like random enemies, and you'll be surprised which ones were actually armor. So I'm going to put that link to the table down below so you can see what each armor is. And there's like a few instances where Entmon has an armor that they just randomly threw in there, and I don't understand that one too well, but it's a neat little table to look at. They could have done that in the season where they like traded eggs around and we kind of see what all the other armors look like, just for funsies. And like I said, the same could be said about DNA. DNA is when 2 Digimon digivolve together and we get something like a fusion. Not to be confused with crossing. Don't get them confused because they're nothing alike. And we had Xvmon, Stingmon, who became Pyeldramon. We had Aquilamon and Gatomon, which became Sylphimon, and Ankylomon and Angemon, which became Sakuamon. And Sakuamon and Sylphimon were just stupid looking. Especially in the English version when Sakuamon talked, how they had the 2 Digimon talk with each other, like together. Aquilamon and Gatomon talking together, that voice was horrendous. Ugh. But Sylphimon and Sakuamon were just stupid looking. I mean, geez Louise. Paildramon was kind of cool looking though, and then Imperial Dramon is just amazing. He's probably my favorite Digimon to come out of 02. DNA was a nice concept, but they could have. Why did XVmon and Stingmon only have to DNA with each other? Why couldn't we have like Stingmon and Angemon or XVmon and Ankylomon? Fuse some of the other Digimon together. We'll see what kind of funky, ugly, disformed beings we can get out of some of these. Oh man. What kind of ugly thing would we get with with Aquilomon and Ankylomon? A flying wrecking ball? I don't know. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see what we could have gotten. Oh, something I forgot. I did this in my last video. Unrevealed megas. We know that Vmon, his real mega is Paildramon. Wormmon's is Grand Kawagamon. I think he's been in a few episodes in like other seasons. Hawkmon's is a Digimon called Valkyriemon. It kind of looks like a Greek warrior type thing. It's pretty neat looking. And Armadillomon's is really Vikemon. I know that they always try to make Vikemon out as Gomamons, but it's really Armadillomon's. So that is the most screwball evolution chain. Armadillomon, Ankylomon, Sakuamon, Vikemon. I don't know. I don't know. I just brought that up just for the heck of it. Okay. I think I basically covered most I could, because I'm running up about the time limit I had for the last video. What I think 02 is one of those instances where maybe the sequel shouldn't have been made, because it really it screwed up a lot of what Adventure had set, and to a certain extent it ignored a lot of what Adventure had done. Adventure was great for a lot of reasons, and 02 basically kicked all of those reasons out the door and then added more problems. I mean, like I said, the season does bring some good things to the table. It brought a lot of great ideas to the table that were executed poorly or barely brushed upon, if not made anything out of. It's a season of missed opportunities, basically. So I'm going to put it number 6 on my favorite favorite seasons list. Why not 7? Well, yeah, I guess you could put it last, because I don't know if I want to count Boy Hunters as a season. So if you want, I'll probably put it 6. It's a mess, and to think that this is the sequel to my favorite season, it's a big disappointment. And this season makes me facepalm so many times. The reason why this review came, well, it didn't come out any faster than I was thinking, but I didn't even, because I found the season subbed again for the first time, and I'm watching them all. I completely skipped 02 about halfway through the Emperor Saga, because I began to realize how stupid, and I remember the second half of the season, I remember how stupid it was. Like, I don't think I want to sit through this again. I want to skip right to Tamers and give that season another shot. So I did that. So, 02, the perfect example of why a sequel is not always a good idea. That's all I'm going to say about it. And that's more likely going to be the end up being the title of this review. Okay, so it's last on my list. Okay, so next time we're going to be jumping into the real world. We're finally exiting the adventure universe, jumping into a brand new universe where Adventure and 02 are a show. The card game, the toys, all of it's fan stuff. Where we're introduced into a world where things are a bit more like our own. Tamers. A season that's probably the most debated season. It's either one of those seasons that you really hate or really love. And where do I stand with tamers? Well, that's what next video is for. So we'll be slashing cards. Yeah, I'm gonna make up some cheesy transitions. Go with it. So get your D-arcs ready. We're gonna be jumping into the world of tamers next time. Alright, so ketchup is out. Have a good day, everybody.